the story of House's House of Hypnotism. In a land not so far away, and in a time not so long ago, there was once a doctor named House. It was on this day and at this time that Dr. House was elected to teach a class on hypnotism, and for some reason you are attending. I will be talking and you will be listening, and if you have a problem with that, you can shut up and leave, House greeted the class. Much like the first man to practice hypnotism, Franz Mesmer, I will hopefully leave you with some inkling of hypnotic wisdom. In order to teach his class, he asked for volunteers. When none came forward willingly, he then decided to choose them forcibly. His first volunteer was a man known as George Clooney. Once properly introduced, House began the first steps in hypnotizing his subject. Knowing that making someone feel relaxed is one of the most effective ways to hypnotize a person, he began to describe physical functions that George should have been feeling. Your eyes should be feeling heavy, your limbs should be feeling tired, and basically you should be feeling like a sleeping kitten, House intoned. However, George appeared to be feeling none of those symptoms, and instead remained looking bored on stage. You must be one of those morons who scored the lesser 10% of the SHSS susceptibility scale, House said. I don't appreciate your tone, George had replied. Well, I don't appreciate your stupidity or your hair, House had said. You laugh, and then eventually their encounter became out of control, and George Clooney was arrested and thrown out of the class. With his first participant now gone, House then forced up another subject. She was introduced as Dolly Parton. On her, House once again performed his rite of hypnotism, and unlike what happened with George Clooney, Dolly Parton seemed to feel the effects. In certain cases of hypnotism, anesthetic effects can be produced and certain procedures may be taken. Now our subject here has had an obvious amount of plastic surgery done and would not object to having any more done, right? At this, he received an affirmative answer, and so he began to proceed with plastic surgery, since he was a doctor after all. Afterwards, when much of the blood was cleaned up, Dolly smiled at the crowd and waved as she exited the stage feeling like a new person. With the success of surgery, House had quite a number of volunteers, and of course he chose the one that stood out the most. Wearing an absolutely ridiculous outfit, Lady Gaga stood on stage, and House took one look at her after completing his ritual and told her, "You are wearing something hideous. Instead, you will go and put on something that you believe is utterly boring." When the crowd looked confused as Gaga walked off stage, House explained, by provoking her disinhibition, I've caused her to do something that she believes is completely unnatural. At this time, Lady Gaga reappeared on stage wearing something much more natural and unoffensive looking. After a brief round of applause, Lady Gaga also departed the stage peacefully. Lindsay Lohan appeared next, much to the unsatisfaction of you, the crowd, and House as well. I don't like you, House said soon after reducing her to a rather dazed, hypnotic state, but I do want to know what happens to that idiot head of yours sometimes, so I instruct you to tell us of all your upcoming plans, just for fun. Of course, then, Lindsay spouts out some ridiculous scheme of how she will go have fun and party with her friends, and how she really just wants to be remembered. After her dull speech that you don't pay attention to, you realize that House has a much more attractive person on stage named Robert Downey Jr. He has already began to succumb to hypnosis that House has somehow mastered, but he has become so relaxed that he is starting to fall off stage. Before he can, House shouts at him to do something useful, and you watch as for some reason he begins to do yoga instead. But House eventually gets bored, and soon the overly relaxed Robert Downey Jr. is escorted off the stage as well. Before House can choose another volunteer, a man dressed as a pirate appears from behind the curtain yelling something about rum. I want no part of this madness, for it is too early and I have not had as much to drink as I need to deal with insanity and hallucinations, so go away, the man says. House takes advantage of this time to hypnotize the man and says, for your most interesting and insane character, I want you to see one of the most terrifying moments you've ever had, House tells the strange pirate man. And for some reason, the man runs off the stage screaming for no apparent reason from things that only he can see. You laugh as the madman disappears, and then turn your attention back to the one on stage. This concludes our lessons on hypnotism, and I just have a final message for you. Everything you have seen here today is not only as real as you let it be. Now, I'm going to count to 3, and at the end, you will all be at your respective houses. So 1, 2, 3. You close your eyes for just a brief second, and when you open them, you are shocked to find yourself in your bedroom. You were just in that class, weren't you? You watched as several different people were hypnotized. You saw the hypnotist yourself. It all just happened, or did it?